It's infrastructure week for the White House, but that may have gotten lost in the shuffle with President Trump rekindling controversy on the violence in Virginia yesterday. His remarks at a news conference that was supposed to be touting his infrastructure plan. The president going off the grid despite the best efforts of the White House Chief of Staff, John Kelly, who could only look on in silence, as you see there. This as we learn the president has named longtime aide Hope Hicks as interim White House communications director. Can she help hone in his message? Joining me now, Ben Shapiro, editor-in-chief for the DailyWire.com and host of the Ben Shapiro Show, and Leslie Marshall, radio talk show host and a Fox News contributor. All right, Ben, let me get your take first, just on the moment. What are your thoughts as we see a White House trying to get its message together, particularly after that very eventful afternoon and news conference yesterday?
My initial thought is that the biggest problem for the Trump administration has been Trump, not his staff, not the people who surround him, not the people who are supposed to try to contain him, but Trump. I mean, no one wanted him to do the press conference that he did yesterday. He went out there, he did it anyway. That was the day after he gave what was, by all accounts, a fine statement on white supremacism and racism, and he decided that he had to blow all that up for another set of headlines because he was miffed at something. I'm not sure that Hope Hicks is if people are looking for an answer, if John Kelly wasn't the answer, I'm not sure why Hope Hicks would be.
She has been a long-time person alongside the president inside this White House. Leslie, she's 28 years old. You don't hear from her or see from her very much. There's a picture of her there. She doesn't have a Twitter account, for example. She's been quiet, but she has been behind the scenes. Is this the next hope for the messaging from this White House?
No, absolutely not. I think of his own family, like Ivanka and Jared and his sons. If they can't rein him in from going, off the rails like we saw yesterday, no one can. I would agree with Ben that the biggest problem in the communications effort of this administration is the commander-in-chief himself, President Trump. And the problem is that he doesn't stick to, I believe, what he has been advised by all of those around him. He doesn't stick to what is written for him in a speech, whether it's on a teleprompter or he has it in front of him on a podium. And he doesn't stick to the message, I think, that they might have planned prior to him walking out and meeting with the press once the cameras are rolling and the mics are on. Again, he is causing himself the largest damage. And this is obviously, as we're seeing today, damaging to both the Republican Party and the conservative movement in the United States.
But Ben, at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, is the president doing what is best for his party, what is best for those who voted him into office? There is polling out there that does suggest, does indicate that what Trump is doing does work for his voters.
Well, I think it works for his base, but I'm not sure why everyone keeps looking to his base in the same way that, George W. Bush, even by the end of his term, had a base, even though he was in the 20s. Looking at the base is really not where you ought to be looking. If you're looking to promulgate an agenda, you need to win over a lot of the people you don't have. Right now, he's in the 30% range, 35%, somewhere in there in terms of approval rating. Again, just appealing to the same group of people who are always going to support you no matter what, may be politically comfortable for you. But Laura Ingraham, who's a big booster of the president, she said on this network last night that she doesn't think this forwards President Trump's agenda. It's very hard to see how, just from an agenda point of view, it forwards his agenda. And from the point of view of you want to broaden and deepen conservative support, I don't see how doing press conferences like the president did yesterday does any of that, just from a utilitarian perspective, putting aside the moral.
And Leslie, as we watch the fallout from all of this, the latest, the president announcing on his Twitter a short time ago that he's shutting down these two business councils, the Manufacturing Council and the CEO Advisory Forum, after many, I kind of lost track, I think it was 7 or 8 that had quit in the moments leading up to him saying, you know what, I'm just going to shut it down altogether.
Well, it's interesting because right after you had the fifth, who's actually a friend of mine, Scott Paul, president of the AAM, walk away, President Trump said, oh, I have so many CEOs that want to be, on this council, and then he shuts it down, which is not surprising to me. I find a lot of contradiction with this president in what he says. But with regard to what he is doing going forward, and when you look at the numbers in the polls, overall, again, agree with Ben somewhat here, these polling numbers are are not something that's going to get a guy reelected. And these polling numbers, by the way, I'm not surprised Mitch McConnell polls lower than the president, because Congress has double digits now. Remember, it was below double digits at one point just a couple of years ago. So Congress, I think, both House and Senate, and those that lead both of those chambers, are not looked upon often as favorably as the president, whether they're a Democrat or Republican. So I'm not surprised by this.
It's interesting, you know, Ben, when you go back to the second response post Charlottesville from the president, the one that he took to the teleprompter to put his message out there, you didn't see the same response, obviously, that you are now seeing after this press conference, obviously. The president just retweeted a business insider type person, a CEO type, Jacob Wohl, just in the past hour. That person said, and this is the retweet by the president, President Trump alone has succeeded in bringing the stock market, small business index, and consumer comfort to all-time highs. The reason I wanted to bring that in here is because in that second reaction from the president in front of the teleprompter, not yesterday's, he started out, he led with the economy. I've created 1 million jobs since I've been in office. CEOs are confident. So to have him retweet that message, he's going back to focus on the economy.
Well, that would be nice. I mean, the president can be a very powerful communicator when he wants to be. The problem is that he's easily distracted by these games where he's trying to support people he thinks support him and attack people he thinks are attacking him. He has a very punchback mentality, and sometimes that takes him down some pretty dark roads, and I think we saw that yesterday. Again, if the president would get back to his agenda, if the president would just have stuck by his damn statement on Monday, we wouldn't have to do any of this. This is not difficult. Pretending that this is some sort of 40 underwater, upside down, MAGA, hungry hippos is nonsense. This is not hard. Just say right things. Talk about the things that you're trying to do instead of getting bogged down in the vagaries of which people you actually liked at the Friday night white supremacist rally.
All right, Ben and Leslie, thanks for joining us this afternoon. Good to see you both.
Good to see you. Thanks.